Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're digging into a really fascinating stack of sources. We're going everywhere from active conflict zones to some high-stakes diplomacy and looking at the real human side of these global events, too.
Yeah, it's quite a fix, and our goal really is to pull it all together for you. We've got different perspectives, sometimes conflicting ones, and we want to synthesize that, find the key takeaways so you get the full picture without feeling totally overwhelmed.
Exactly. Okay, let's unpack this then. We're jumping straight into the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. There's been some intense action recently. Our sources are reporting Russian attacks, specifically focusing on the central Kirovohrad region. Authorities there are talking about partial energy cuts, interrupted train services, things that hit everyday life hard.
And what's really telling, I think, is the why behind those attacks. Ukraine's deputy prime minister, Alexander Kubrakov, he explained these were massive drone strikes, but they were specifically aimed at substations, the ones powering the railway network. So it's a very strategic move, seemingly trying to cripple logistics.
Makes sense. Disrupting movement.
Exactly. But Ukraine, well, they showed some real adaptability. They apparently rolled out over 20 reserve locomotives quite quickly to keep things moving.
Wow, okay.
Which minimized the immediate chaos. And the good news, reportedly, no casualties from those specific strikes. That's a positive takeaway, at least.
Definitely a testament to their response. But, as always, in these situations, you get the other side of the story.
Always.
The Russian Ministry of Defense, they paint a very different picture. They're claiming successful hits on railway infrastructure, yes, but also on storage sites, drone launch sites.
Right, a broader target set.
And they're talking about significant Ukrainian losses. Let's see, 14 armored vehicles, 12 artillery pieces, some MLRS systems, those multiple launch rocket systems.
Heavy equipment losses, if true.
Plus, they claim hits on, 149 Ukrainian locations, taking out an unmanned boat in the Black Sea, and, get this, downing 357 Ukrainian drones in just 24 hours.
357, that number. It's
Yes.
huge. It really underscores the difficulty in knowing what's actually happening on the ground.
It does.
And the Russian report also mentioned using FPV drones, those first-person view ones, to hit a compressor station near Sumy. It just highlights the fog of war, doesn't it? The information warfare aspect is critical here.
Absolutely. It's not just about the physical battle.
Yeah.
And speaking of the bigger picture, President Zelensky gave an interview to Sky News recently.
I saw that reported.
He was looking ahead, saying Russia isn't just fighting now, but is actually gearing up for 2 more large-scale offensives this autumn. This follows what he called 3 failed Russian campaigns earlier.
And his reasoning for why they supposedly failed is interesting. He put it down to gigantic losses on the Russian side, personnel and equipment. He sounded pretty confident, actually, said Russia will not be able to take our east. And then he threw out this idea, quite provocative, that maybe Putin is being deluded with false results.
Deluded.
Yeah, suggesting the reports going up the chain in Russia might be painting a rosier picture than reality, that things are actually going much worse than they told Putin, which, if true, has huge implications for strategy.
It really does. So you're faced with these completely opposing narratives, official statements being used as weapons. How do you, listening to all this, sort the fact from the spin?
It's incredibly tough. It really forces you to look at multiple sources, cross-reference, and always consider the motivations behind each claim. There's rarely a single, simple truth.
Right. Okay, so from the battlefield, let's shift to diplomacy. A very different kind of theater, but still full of strategy and tension. We're looking at former President Trump's recent state visit to the UK.
The second one.
He met King Charles, other senior royals, the whole Windsor Castle setting, and Trump was quoted saying positive things, like he loves Great Britain, calls it a very special place.
Standard diplomatic language, perhaps? But for the UK government, under Prime Minister Starmer, this visit had clear goals. Strengthening that special relationship, boosting economic ties, and really chasing investment.
And did they get it?
It seems so, at least on paper. There were some big pledges announced. Microsoft, NVIDIA, Google. They committed something like $31 billion combined over the next few years.
$31 billion. That's significant.
It is a definite economic win for the UK, regardless of how you view the politics surrounding the visit.
But beneath that surface level of royal meetings and big money pledges, there were, let's say, complications.
Always are.
Trump isn't exactly popular in the UK. And Starmer's own approval ratings are pretty low, hovering around 24%. So you had major security, big protests.
And that rather bizarre incident, right? Projecting images of Trump and Jeffrey Epstein onto Windsor Castle?
Yeah, apparently that happened. Led to 4 arrests, the sources say. It just shows how raw the underlying tensions are, even during these formal state events.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it, about the impact of these traditional state visits in today's world? You've got so many crises happening simultaneously: Middle East, Ukraine, Sudan, trade tensions.
Do they cut through?
Maybe not like they used to, especially when both leaders involved have, well, less than stellar approval ratings. Trump's at 40% in the US, but only 22% in the UK, according to these reports. And Starmer at 24%. Plus, there are real policy clashes.
Like what?
Well, the big one mentioned is Palestine. Starmer wants to move towards recognizing a Palestinian state. Trump's completely against it, calls it rewarding Hamas. That's a fundamental disagreement right at the heart of the relationship.
And then there are the personal controversies. It seems like everyone involved has some baggage.
It does seem that way. You mentioned Trump's Epstein links, which are constantly brought up. Then King Charles has the whole Prince Andrew situation. And Starmer recently had issues with his former ambassador over Epstein-related emails, too.
It just adds another layer of awkwardness. Or maybe vulnerability.
Vulnerability, I think so. It potentially weakens their standing, their ability to project strength and unity internationally when these personal shadows hang over them.
And speaking of projecting things, this detail about Trump's stance on Ukraine really stood out.
Oh, the 19 times thing.
Yeah, reportedly changing his position on the war 19 times. Our source called it unprecedented in modern diplomacy.
19 times. It's hard to even process. Think about the impact on allies trying to coordinate policy. How can you build trust or long-term strategy with that level of unpredictability? It's a serious challenge for international relations.
Absolutely. It really throws a wrench into alliance stability. So while traditional diplomacy seems a bit rocky, military preparedness seems to be surging, especially in Europe.
Definitely. That brings us neatly to Poland and what's happening there.
Right. Our sources talk about these big military exercises, Ion Defender 25, Poland and NATO in the Baltic Sea. And they're not shy about framing it as a direct, firm response to Russian and Belarusian maneuvers, the APAT 2025 ones.
The messaging is very clear. Polish Prime Minister Tusk basically said, the world needs to see that NATO and Poland are ready for different scenarios. Diplomatic code for potential conflict.
Tens of thousands of troops involved, too. It's a serious show of force.
It is. And Poland's defense minister was even more blunt. He directly blamed Russia for recent drone attacks inside Poland, calling it part of a wave of disinformation, too.
So they see it as hybrid warfare.
Exactly. And they're acting on it, building up a multi-layered air defense, aiming to have the third largest army in NATO. They're not messing around.
What are the concrete steps?
Well, during these exercises, they fired Patriot missiles on Polish soil for the first time ever. That's a big operational step. And they're pushing ahead with modernization, like planning to approve the purchase of Orca submarines by the end of the year. It's rapid rearmament, plain and simple. They're building deterrence fast.
And it feels like this isn't just Poland acting alone, right? It's part of a wider European trend.
Oh, absolutely. Look at Denmark. Our sources describe an historic change in their defense policy. After years of cuts, they're reversing course dramatically.
Oh, so.
They're planning to buy long-range missiles and drones. Crucially, ones capable of reaching enemy territory.
Offensive capability.
Precisely, and their rationale is stark. Without offensive capability, air defense becomes useless. It's a shift from purely defensive thinking to proactive deterrence, basically saying, if you hit us, we can hit back, far away. It's a whole new mindset driven by the perceived threat from Russia.
A fundamental rethink.
Yeah.
And this defense focus in Europe, it's even impacting diplomacy further afield, isn't it?
It seems so. We saw reports about the EU's foreign policy chief, Kaja Kallas. She's pushing for deeper cooperation with India.
India, despite their ties to Moscow and Tehran.
Exactly. Deeper ties in defense, technology, supply chains. The thinking seems to be that engaging India is vital for European influence in the Indo-Pacific, even with those complicated existing relationships. It's strategic pragmatism, you could say, balancing interests.
It shows how interconnected everything is becoming. Okay, we need to shift focus now, and it's to a very difficult and tragic situation. The ongoing Israeli offensive in Gaza City.
Yeah, this is tough reporting.
The sources describe intense bombardment preceding the ground advance. Something like 150 air and artillery strikes before the troops moved in.
Yeah.
They're slowly pushing into the city.
And the human cost.
Yeah.
It's just devastating. Reports of apartment buildings and refugee camps being hit. Israel claims they were Hamas surveillance sites.
Right.
But also, tragically, the Al-Antis Children's Hospital in Gaza City was struck. Some of its patients, including premature babies, were reportedly trapped inside. Just horrific.
Absolutely horrific. Our sources mentioned 16 deaths in just one night, contributing to this staggering total Palestinian death toll, reportedly around 65,000 now.
65,000. The scale is immense.
And adding another layer to this is a UN Commission report, a very significant one.
The one alleging genocide.
Yes. It concluded Israel is committing genocide in Gaza, and it specifically pointed to the destruction of the Al-Azma Fertility Center back in December 2023 as part of that deliberate pattern.
A hugely controversial finding. And Israel's envoy, as you expect, rejected it completely, calling it libelous. It just shows the deep, deep divide in how these events are interpreted.
Meanwhile, civilians are caught in the middle. The IDF opened a second route for people to leave Gaza City.
But leaving, it's almost impossible for many. The reports highlight destroyed phone networks, so no communication, widespread hunger, no transport, no tents if you do get out.
And where do they even go?
Exactly. There's this perception that the South, including the supposed Al-Mawasi humanitarian zone, isn't safe either. It's been hit too. So people feel trapped with no genuinely safe options.
What's really striking, though, is this reported internal dissent within Israel's own security establishment.
Ah, yes, the chief of staff, among others.
Right. Lieutenant General Yarzami and other officials reportedly questioning the whole offensive internally, citing the immense human cost, but also doubting whether it can actually achieve the goal of destroying Hamas completely.
That's fascinating. It suggests a potential gap between the military assessment on the ground and the political objectives being pushed.
And that leads to speculation about those political objectives, doesn't it?
It does. Many observers suggest that maintaining a state of war serves a political purpose for the current coalition government specifically, avoiding early elections that polls suggest they might lose.
So the military operation might be serving domestic political ends as much as security ones.
That's certainly a perspective strongly suggested by commentators and some reports. It adds another complex dimension to the conflict's drivers.
And amidst all this strategy and politics, the individual stories are just heartbreaking. That story about Najwa Abu Amada.
The woman whose embryos were destroyed at the Al-Azma clinic.
Yes. She had already lost a child before, and this was her hope for motherhood. Literally frozen, then destroyed in the bombardment. It brings the abstract horror of war down to such a personal, devastating level.
It really does. It puts a human face on terms like war crimes or collateral damage. It's someone's entire future shattered.
So we've covered a huge amount today. From Ukraine's battlefields, the delicate dance of UK-US diplomacy, Europe's rapid rearming, to the absolute tragedy in Gaza.
It's a lot, but you can see the threads connecting them, can't you? Global insecurity driving military buildup, diplomatic visits trying to manage alliances amidst conflict, and the constant, terrible human cost.
Exactly. Our sources really paint a picture of a world, well, in flux, reacting constantly, leaders under pressure, nations reassessing threats, and ordinary people caught in the crossfire.
Yeah, reacting and adapting, often in quite dramatic ways.
So the question for you listening is, what does this all mean? When the official stories clash so strongly, when the geopolitical games are this complex, how do you make sense of it all? How do you figure out what's truly important?
And think about how these pieces fit together. How does that European defense shift we talked about, for example, potentially change alliances or trade relationships down the line in ways maybe we haven't even fully grasped yet?
Lots to think about. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.